Welcome to the In Your Element Fertility Podcast. I'm Jennifer Edmonds. I'm a yoga teacher, Pilates instructor, meditation and breathwork coach. And for the last 15 years, I've been helping women on their journeys to motherhood and beyond. This is the podcast that blends both science and spirit with everything you need to know as you navigate your fertility journey. If you're looking for a way to support your physical health, your mental health, reduce anxiety, and reclaim some joy back into your life, to make the process of trying to conceive feel easier, then you've come to the right place. I'll show you how to apply the latest scientific research along with your energy and mindset to provide you with all the tools you need as you're trying to conceive. This is the In Your Element Fertility Podcast. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the In Your Element Fertility Podcast. Thank you so much for being here with me today. And this episode is going to be discussing something that we don't talk about very much. It's this weird place of limbo, this weird place of we don't fit into those who are still trying to have their first baby, and we don't fit in with those people who have already completed their families. And so it's a really difficult place that we find ourselves in. And the reasons why this is so difficult are things that I'm going to talk about. But my intention with this episode is to reassure you that you're not alone, especially if this is where you are currently finding yourself. As I am recording this, it is officially the 1st of December, which means all of the December things are upon us. And I just remember so clearly the years that I spent both before I had a child and before I had completed my family, and how difficult this time of year can be. So I want to acknowledge that. And I hope that as you are listening to this, you feel a little less alone. So in case you missed the first episode of this podcast where I explained my journey and I went into things in a little bit more detail, I just want to go through why I found the journey of secondary infertility so much harder than the first. And I was one of the super unlucky ones that had fertility concerns for both my first baby as well as my second, and for different reasons. Initially, we had to go through IVF because I didn't have a cycle coming off birth control. I was told that I was potentially going through early menopause. I had no ovarian function, and IVF was our only answer. And we were very lucky that after 2 rounds, our one little untested embryo that we ended up with ended up making it all the way. And when my daughter was about 1, I stopped breastfeeding, and the most incredible thing happened. My cycle returned naturally on its own. And my husband and I were so relieved. We thought that the second time around, trying for another baby was going to be so easy, so joyful, all of the things that we didn't get to experience the first time around. Finally, we'd have an opportunity to do all of those. But sadly, that wasn't the way things panned out. And this second journey ended up being so much more difficult for a lot of different reasons. We had tried for about 6 months at home, naturally, before we went back to a doctor just to run a few more tests and to see if there was anything that we needed to know. And we were diagnosed with a whole list of new issues that we didn't know we had. So I had developed a thyroid condition. I again was diagnosed with poor ovarian function and potentially a lack of ovulation every month. I also developed chronic insomnia, and I had extreme anxiety, and my stress levels were off the charts. And we had some slight male factor issues there as well. So put all of that together, we were referred straight back to IVF. And sadly, IVF didn't work this time. And even though we had 2 beautiful little embryos and we had transferred both of them, they weren't to be. And this was at March of 2020. So as we know, the world fell to its knees. Every clinic in the world, and especially in the city that I lived in, every fertility clinic had shut because IVF was considered a non-essential surgery. I was also living in the Middle East, so I was so far from home. We had no option of trying fertility treatments again, and the borders to Australia were officially closed. So I had no option to see my family or to have anyone come and visit. It was a really hard time. So I think that that was a big factor in why my journey of secondary infertility was so much more difficult. I was so isolated, and we were in this weird place of limbo where we just didn't know what the world was going to look like a week from now, let alone 6 months to a year. But the real pain of secondary infertility that I was experiencing, it went a lot deeper than this. The shame and the guilt that goes along with wanting more than the beautiful child that you already have. The frustration of knowing your body did this once before, so why not now? And one of the hardest things was the lack of compassion from others. So let's start with that. The reaction that I got from other people, and the more I speak to people who are going through secondary infertility, and I have to point out, it is a huge number of the women that I work with, probably 40% or more, would be experiencing secondary infertility. So it is no small thing, and it certainly isn't uncommon. But I found, particularly on this journey, compassion was in very short supply from family, from friends, from doctors, you name it. Even after I'd had a miscarriage, the sentiment, even from my doctor, was, you already have a child, so don't worry about it. You can just try again. It was this flippant attitude of, why are you getting so upset about this? And I found anytime I opened up, especially on social media, about my struggles and how I was feeling about this journey, I would inevitably be sent messages just reminding me that I already had a beautiful, healthy child, or telling me not to worry. Lots of people only have one child and they're perfectly happy. And of course, if you only want to have one child, then that's a beautiful journey for you to take. But why shouldn't I want more than one child when so many others get that choice freely every single day? And of course, being surrounded by all these messages of, you should be grateful and, you shouldn't want more. Gosh, the guilt that comes with that when I was spending time with my daughter, who was 2.5 probably at the time during lockdown in COVID, feeling like maybe I don't think she's enough. How dare I want more than I've already got? And at the same time, spending so much of my life focusing on wanting another child and going to appointments and tracking my cycle and timing intercourse and all of the things that we do when we are trying to conceive. That was taking away from time and energy that I could have been devoting to her. One of the things students say to me the most when they are dealing with secondary infertility is this idea that they don't belong anywhere. They're not in the same basket of those who are trying to conceive to have their first child, but they also can't relate to families who have 2 or more children and are on this journey of either having completed their families or knowing if they wanted to have another child, they probably wouldn't have much difficulty. And then, of course, as I said before, you're getting people reminding you that having one child is a wonderful thing and people do it every day. And that is wonderful for those people. But when you don't want to be one of those only child families, that doesn't help you at all. My husband and I are both only children for different reasons. And we decided when we got married and we wanted to start a family that having 2 children was everything that we planned for. So I felt that I didn't really deserve to participate in online forums or Facebook groups or Instagram accounts where people were struggling to conceive, because as soon as they found out I had a child, I feared all these negative comments or all the criticism that I might get or the dismissive attitude from others. So I completely relate to that feeling of not knowing where you sit. I was constantly thinking about the future on this journey. I would always play in my mind the questions that my daughter would inevitably ask when she got older. Why can't I have a brother or a sister? How come everyone else gets to have a sibling and I don't? And I would just watch that potential age gap between my kids get wider and wider every month. And I hated that. I always wanted to be one of those parents that had 2 under 2 and was juggling all these little tiny kids all together at once. And the longer it took to have my second baby, the further and further those dreams started to drift away. And at the same time, I dreaded all the questions that I would also get from others. Don't you want to have another child? Don't you want to give her a sibling? Or do you really want to just stop at one? All of these things that people think that it's appropriate to say because somehow family planning is small talk. So I was consumed by these thoughts of the future. And as hard as all of this is, there are some quite clear reasons why secondary infertility comes up and why it can be an issue. And I am often asked this by students. So I want to give you a few reasons. Don't get me wrong, sometimes there isn't a reason. Sometimes it just happens. But the first thing that I think we need to be aware of is that pregnancy and the postpartum period is enormously stressful on your body. It depletes you of essential minerals. It interrupts your sleep, as we all very well know. And all of this combined really dysregulates your nervous system. It increases the amount of cortisol that you have in your body, leading to higher levels of stress. So all of these issues put together can make conception the second time around a little bit more difficult. Frustratingly, age can be a factor as well. Of course, we are older as we're going through this for the second time around, and that leads to all of the age-related issues that we are all too aware of when it comes to fertility struggles. But it's also possible that surgeries or complications from your previous birth can make it harder to conceive the second time around. And as always, if you suspect this is the case, see your doctor and ask for all of the tests that you feel that you might need. So if you are going through secondary infertility, my advice is to find someone you can connect with who gets it, who understands the unique pain of this situation and isn't going to judge you, who is going to be compassionate and there for you. And there are some beautiful communities online that specialize in this particular area. So find ways to connect with people that support you and that get it. And also find ways to keep reminding your body that it's capable. There is no better reminder than the beautiful little child that you already have of what your body is capable of. And that is a lot harder to do than it is to say, of course. And that is why I love the practices that I teach, because it really brings you back to your body and it does remind you of your capability and what you can do. And keep the compassion for yourself as well, as hard as that is. Especially when we're looking at this idea of, look, I've already done this before. Why can't I just do it again? It's really hard not to lose that trust for yourself and for your body. But keep coming back to that compassion and reminding yourself that you absolutely can do this. So I hope that this episode has spoken to you in some small way if you are struggling with secondary infertility. If you want to reach out to me and just share your journey or vent your frustrations with what you've experienced, please always feel free to reach out to me, and I'll list in the show notes all of the ways in which you can contact me if you want to. But if you are going through this particular journey and at this particular time of year, I just want to let you know you are not alone. So thank you so much for joining me today, and I'll see you again soon. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode. If you loved what you heard, be sure to share it with me by leaving a review so I can keep all this information coming your way. If you aren't already following me on social media, check the links below in the show notes to join me for more daily tips to support your fertility journey. And don't forget to visit my website to learn more about how the beautiful practices of yoga, meditation, and breathwork can support you as you're trying to conceive. Until next time, sending you all my love. The most common thing I hear from students who are on their fertility journey is that the stress of trying to conceive has taken over their life. Your days end up being filled with endless appointments, navigating pregnancy announcements. You're trying to eat right, take all your supplements, and it is all you think about from the moment you wake up. I designed the Element Fertility Yoga course to support your body, your mind, and your mental health in 3 important ways: to synchronize your hormones, increase circulation and blood flow, and to help regulate your nervous system. But on top of this, the greatest gift that you can give yourself throughout this journey is a sense of peace to help you calm your mind and just make this process feel easier. Every single one of my students tell me that this is the first thing they notice after starting a yoga, meditation, and breathwork practice. But on top of this, you have the amazing benefit of actually supporting and increasing your fertility. Studies have shown that those participating in mind-body programs as they're trying to conceive have success rates 3 times greater than those who don't. The course I've designed walks you through natural conception as well as fertility treatments and IVF cycles. And the best part is you can work through it at your own pace in the comfort of your home. The practices start from just 10 minutes per day. To learn more, visit elementpilatesyoga.com or see the link in the show notes.